The Mare of the Night. How much is that pony on the sidewalk? Daniel Havoc considered himself a stress connoisseur. During his 3 years as ambassador to Equestria, he has come to appreciate the subtle flavors of tension. There was the overwhelming, insatiable pressure of waiting, the burning itch of frustration, and the cold, testicle-contracting prickle of fear. Now, as he waited in the conference room, his body was getting a healthy dose of all three. Okay. Daniel took a deep breath, drumming his fingers against the varnish ebony conference table. Stay cool. Stay calm. Stay cool. Stay calm. He told himself, trying to ignore the fact that if these negotiations failed, the UN's proposed alliance with the Minotaurs was kaput, and a certain ambassador's ass would be nailed to the wall of the General Secretary's office. So yeah, no pressure. Okay, Dan, you're a strong, confident man. You've got an iron will and stainless steel balls. Daniel twirled the lock of chocolate-colored hair with his fingers. He'd learned long ago that politics was just another form of acting. You just had to play a role and play it well. You wrestle manticores for fun and eat nails for breakfast. You aren't afraid of any minotaurs. If he was good enough, the bull might actually believe it. Something large and heavy started clomping towards the conference room. Daniel pushed himself off the hydra-skin chair, running through his pre-negotiation checklist. Chin held high? Check. Shoulders straight? Check. Chest puffed out? Check. Operation Negotiation was a go. The ebony conference room door slowly creaked open and the Minotaur speaker clomped in, carrying himself with all the grace and subtlety one would expect from a 500-pound man-bull. Human Speaker Daniel. The Minotaur smoothed a crease in his sky-blue toga and gave a short bow. Daniel promptly returned the gesture, digging his fingernails into his palm. Rule number 1 of negotiating with Minotaurs, don't show fear. If you showed fear to a Minotaur, he'd lose interest in you and leave. But you couldn't be too cocky either, lest you contract a bad case of hoof and face disease. So, Speaker Big Stick, have you finally come to a decision? Daniel tapped his foot. Yes. The living Greek legend slowly clomped over to Daniel, a walking wall of muscle and sinew that could snap a human bodybuilder in half. The Ecclesia and this one have discussed the terms of your UN's proposal, Big Stick said, pronouncing UN as UN. Daniel's stomach began pulling a Melman's. This was it. And after much deliberation over telegraph, Big Stick paused for a second, as if he enjoyed making Daniel squirm. We have decided that their revised proposal is acceptable. Before Daniel could react, 2 arms as thick as hams wrapped around him in a crushing hug. Daniel caught a heavy whiff of the Minotaur scent. It was a heady mix of sweat and musk that basically screamed, I am male. Finally, the speaker released him. Welcome, valued ally. Daniel brushed Minotaur hair off of his suit. Thank you, honored speaker. Humanity's representative returned the embrace, feeling like a child trying to hug a side of beef. I'll have my government send the necessary paperwork over in a few days. Good, said Big Stick. I must go now. There is much work to do. Daniel reached under the conference room table and slipped on a crash helmet. Big Stick locked arms with Daniel, pulled his bovine head, and gave the human a traditional farewell headbutt. Gods be with you. Gods be with you too, Daniel replied, reeling like a punch-drunk boxer. Then the speaker left. Daniel pulled off the crash helmet, rubbing his head and waiting for the world to stop spinning. Rule number 2 of negotiating with Minotaurs, always bring a helmet. Once the world finally stopped moving, Daniel collapsed in his chair, releasing a breath that he didn't even know he was holding. He felt like an orange that had just been squeezed dry, used up, and ready for the compost heap. He was never drinking orange juice again. A hot needle poked the side of Daniel's stomach. Damn it. He reached into his coat pocket, fished out a bottle of milk of magnesia, and took a swig. The milky liquid rushed into his stomach like water into a forest fire, calming his bellicose bowels. This job was seriously gonna kill him. It was all because of a wrong turn. A wrong turn on a hiking trail that got him hopelessly lost in the woods. A wrong turn, which made him stumble into an interdimensional portal and transported him into this Technicolor fairy tale land. A wrong turn that had made him one of the most influential and overpaid men alive. During his tenure as humanity's ambassador, Daniel has accomplished more in 3 years than most people accomplished in their entire lifetimes. He'd arranged alliances and treaties with races that only existed in myth back home. He'd had tea with demigods and brunch with dragons. Some loved him, many envied him. and he would trade it all in for a good night's sleep and a calm stomach. Once his stomach had quieted down a little, Daniel pushed himself out of his chair and stretched, his joints snapping and popping like strings of firecrackers. What time is it? Daniel popped his neck and whipped out his pocket watch. 9:35. He'd been in this conference for almost 4 hours. By his standards, that was downright speedy. Sometimes his meetings could take up to half a day, especially with the Griffins. Those catbirds loved making people wait. With a final stretch, Daniel walked out of the conference room and into the embassy's lobby, his custom-made shoes glomping onto the granite floor. Alright, let's see what's coming up. Daniel whipped out a dog-eared day planner, and he groaned. The next few days were going to be hectic as all hell. First, there was a meeting with the Canterlot Royal Council at 3, followed by an interview with Time Magazine at 7. The day after that, he had a meeting with Queen Olivine of the Diamond Dog Kingdom. In short, he needed all the rest that he could get. Ambassador Havoc. Daniel turned to see his personal pony guards trotting up to him, their ceremonial gold armor gleaming in the light from the embassy's mage light chandelier. Daniel restrained himself. Even after 5 years of living in Equestria, there were still times when he was tempted to pick up one of the natives and squeeze them like a teddy bear. While ponies vaguely resembled their Terran counterparts, their appearance was more toy-like than horse-like, with their blunt muzzles, oversized eyes, and colorful coats and tails. Couple that with their childish names and constant use of cheesy horse puns, and you'd had a creature that was almost impossible to take seriously at first. Mistake no one made twice. How did your negotiations fare, Your Eminence? Asked the taller of the two guards. Daniel kept forgetting the pair's names. It was some verb or noun combo related to their occupation, so out of convenience he'd secretly dubbed the tall one George and his shorter companion Lenny. Daniel grunted. I'm sorry, said George. His spade-shaped ears drooped. What are you sorry for? Said Lenny. You didn't even do anything. George whacked his comrade over the head. Anyways, your carriage will be here shortly. Please follow us. With a nod, Daniel followed the pair through the embassy lobby. Back home, the media liked to depict ponies as carefree, childlike beings, like little children in pony costumes. As always, it was pure horse apples. Despite their appearance, ponies were as emotionally mature and diverse as humans. They could be saints, and they could be sinners. They could be heroes, and they could be villains. They could be loyal friends. Danny! Yelled the stallion, wearing an obviously fake toupee. And they could be four-legged leeches. Danny boy, how you doing? The stallion walked over to the human, flashing teeth as white as chalk. The human stopped and deployed the most convincing-looking smile in his arsenal. Now remember, Daniel, you are a good friend of the stallion. Bosom buddies, best pals, whatever. You're supposed to be pleasantly surprised to see him. Hopefully he'd be able to pull this off without strangling some pony. Ah, Counselor Kickback! Just looking at the stallion made a part of Daniel die inside. Good to see ya! Ah, Danny, Danny, Danny. The yellow earth pony said with a smile swiped from a used car salesman. There's no need for formalities, we're both equals here. Daniel's hands twitched. That face. So punchable. So, Danny, how are ya? Kickback gave Daniel a friendly nudge. Working hard or hardly working? Working hard, as always, Daniel said. Kickback gave a laugh as real as his mane. I know what you mean. I heard that you were talking to one of those minis. He clicked his tongue. I feel sorry for you. How'd it go, by the way? Pretty tiring, but otherwise okay, Daniel said through clenched teeth. As if you care. Yourself? Oh, I've been great, Kickback said in a voice slicker than grease. I just submitted my latest proposal to the council subcommittee. Most crossed. He chuckled. Hey, speaking of which, can I ask you something? Well, here it comes. Sure, what is it? Next time you see the princess, could you perhaps have her take a look at this? Kickback handed him a manila folder. It's another proposal I've been cooking up. A targeted 5% tax cut for Cancelot-based companies. Oh yeah, well that would benefit your cronies and nobody else. Well, the princess is a pretty busy pony, and my schedule is kinda full, but I'll see if I can make some time. Great! Kickback patted Daniel on the back. The human shivered. He really would have rather have been kissed by Smooze. Anyways, I gotta go now. Good to see ya. You too, Daniel said, hoping that the lie would drive off Kickback. Once the counselor was out of sight, he banished the proposal to the depths of his bag and let his face relax. When he'd first arrived in this world, most of Canterlot higher-ups had wanted him either imprisoned or dead. A hairless ape, they called him. Now that he was an ambassador, everyone and everything wanted to get on his good side. They'd invite him to parties, give him rare and expensive gifts, the works. But behind the facade of friendliness was the same unspoken message. I scratched your back, so can you scratch mine? With friends like them, he wouldn't mind a few enemies. At least they'd be honest. With that little bout of unpleasantness gone, Daniel plodded out of the embassy door and into the midsummer night. The air was pleasantly cool and comforting, like wrapping a chilled blanket around his body. Most of the nervous sweat evaporated. An elaborate carriage rolled up to the curb, its twin UN flags fluttering softly in the evening breeze.
"Evening, Ambassador Havoc,"
said the Earth Pony, pulling the carriage.
"So, you ready to go?"
Daniel nodded and climbed inside. George and Lenny climbed onto the sides of the carriage, spears pointed up.
"Where to, Ambassador?"
"Earth Embassy," Daniel said as he buckled himself in. "ASAP." The coach pony nodded.
"Gotcha."
There was a gentle lurch and the cart slowly rolled forward. As hooves clip-clopped onto the cobblestone streets as old as England's, Daniel gazed out of the carriage window, trying to reweave his frayed mind by studying the local architecture. Canterlotian architecture could be best described as Arabian Nights meets Baroque Rococo as imagined by Dr. Seuss. Onion-shaped domes and spiraling minarets dominated the skyline, each painted in bright primary colors. Each neighborhood was a proverbial pissing contest, with each house trying to outdo the other with mosaics, statues, and bas-reliefs. Daniel thought it was fitting. It matched the overall attitude of the city to a T. Daniel spotted a guide leading a group of human tourists through the streets. He could see the flashes of their disposable cameras like miniature lightning bolts, hearing them oohing and eyeing at things that he saw every day. As far as Daniel was concerned, they were wasting their money. Crown jewel of Equestria, his hairy human ass. The fancy architecture was just a facade, golden leaf over a dead rat. Behind it was a hive of bureaucracy, corruption, and snobbery. About half the ponies on the council were grade-A hypocrites, and most of the so-called nobles, with a few noteworthy exceptions, treated every pony they met as either a potential rival or ambulatory pawned scum. As far as he was concerned, the only good thing about this place was that it was home to the princesses. That and her... Feeling nostalgic, Daniel rifled through his pocket and pulled out an old leather wallet, one of the few possessions left from his old life. He fished out a dog-eared photograph of himself and a unicorn mare standing in front of a carousel, making silly faces at the camera. Daniel sighed. Twilight Sparkle had been everything that he ever wanted in a woman, human or otherwise. When every pony else called him a monster, she saw a scared creature in desperate need of a friend. When the stress of being trapped in an alien world nearly shattered his mind, she was there, with a hoof on his back and a smile on her face. That, and also she had a really nice flank. A swarm of ifs buzzed through Daniel's head. If the portal hadn't been reopened, if she hadn't been coronated, and if they hadn't been so caught up in their work, if. The carriage lurched to a stop. Daniel stuck his head out of the carriage window, ignoring the slight tingle from the vehicle's multiple protection wards. "What's going on?" he shouted to the cabbie. "Why'd we stop?"
"Emergency road repair, Your Excellency."
The cabbie motioned to a team of earth ponies in construction worker orange, huddling around a massive pothole as if it was telling them the secrets of the universe.
"The whole road's been blocked off."
Daniel groaned. In this millennia-old architectural nightmare, something was always crumbling, magic or no magic. Damn. Do you know a quick detour? The driver thought for a second.
"Yeah, I know a route. Shouldn't take us too long, but I'm afraid it'll take us through a bad part of Old Town, though."
"Do it," Daniel said. Normally, he would have rather taken a detour through Tartarus than through Old Town. But right now, he really didn't give a damn. Dude, okay, so I did a little reading ahead, and I'm going to love the second part of this, and I have a feeling that you are too, because it is so... Well, maybe not raunchy, but it's definitely something very, very saucy. Anywho, let's get on to our classy donators. Top donators: Dash of Evergreen, Peter Coulthard, J Tin Man, Darkside, and Ponyman. CourierCruz CI, Strix, Star630, Narwhals, Delta Omega, RuneSlight 9852, Dospo, Rhine Dragonwolf, Hunter Norman, Austin Roland, Secret Moon, Tal Rasha, The Toilet Snake, Sword Brother and Mordred, Cerberus, Guleshing Hazar, Ron and Wandering, Ender 63, Random Person Man Guy, Easy, Starlight Glimmer, Squiddy Boy, David E. Sanchez, Soul Dragon, Gaki, Trey, Shadow Drake, Joe Piercy, Alex F., Rainbow Dash, Teal'c Anderson, TV Killer, John Becker, Leon Reynolds, Raven Speedster, Zach Raquel, Mr. ECU, Leslie Prickett, Edgar Garcia, One Kingdom 1, Nessa Rusan, Vazuri, Dyslexic Character Sheets, and Just a Random Boy. Thank you all very much for watching this video, and live life to the fullest.